Alhamdulillah wa Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa Muhammadun huwa Sayyidina Mubina wa Innahu kana Rasulan Nabiyan salawatu Allah ta'ala wa salamuhu alayhi. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Leo ikwani wa ikwati fi din wa salamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wassalamun ala mani taba' huda leo ikwani wa ikwati fi Afrika wa Europa wa Asia wa Amerika wa kulli makan. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister Bina. Today, my dear brothers and sisters, and those who may show up in the future, I will be giving a lesson today on an important topic on the Sharia, because you hear me talking. Assalamu alaikum, my dear brother Isaac. You hear me talking a lot about the Sharia Islamia, which translates in English as Islamic law. And reason why I'm talking, I need to talk about this is because there's so much confusion out there from Muslims and non-Muslims alike. There's confusion. We know that the non-Muslims believe that the Sharia is a barbaric rule of law, and the disbelieving governments, the two-bob governments, have tried and has been successful in dismantling the Sharia Islamia from the Muslim states, and even for Muslims even outside there to even practice any aspects of it. And you have to ask why that is when you think about it, because you know how the two-bob and their governments operate. When something is a failed state, they let you go ahead and continue in that because they can control you. But when the two-bob knows that there's something strong, he goes to dismantle it. And then he then tries to implement his law into place. This is, you have to reverse what has happened. And the two-bob governments have dismantled the Sharia because it works. And so they have led a campaign for centuries against the Sharia, and they keep pushing democracy. Any of us who are African living in America, we know that the democracy means tyranny. It means lynching. It means unequal terrain in the courts. It means discrimination in schools and jobs and banking system, and the whole infrastructure is designed to make you fail and designed to discriminate against you. This is what they call democracy because it favors the two-bob and the people who are like him. It favors him. So in the Muslim world, he tries to promote this, and he has. And we've had rulers who have adopted this ways and mean to their own detriment. We see the destruction today of the Muslim states because they have accepted democracy, and it has killed the Muslim states. When the Muslim states were under the Sharia Islamia, they had bounty beyond belief, as you heard me talk about many times in history. We can go through, I can spend weeks talking about Islamic empires when they settled in the Sharia, and they settled in the Sunnah of our Prophet, alayhi salatu salam. The beauty of how they govern. We saw the rise of the woman, which is unheard of in most societies. We saw the rise of the woman under the Sharia because she was protected. She was educated. She had rights beyond any other religion would give her. But when the Sharia Islamiyah become weak, then Subhanahu wa ta'ala withdrew his hand, and what happened? Then they were conquered, or something happened where they fell apart. And we saw this in Andalus. We saw that in India. And again, many people find it very difficult when they hear me say that India was under Islamic rule for 1,000 years. Some fall out of their seat thinking about that. They cannot believe it because they see India today. They see the Hindus and Sikh, and they see what has happened to the Muslims. But they didn't realize that the Muslims ruled India for 1,000 years. And 4 of the sultans, or their Amir Mu'mineen, the rulers of India, were Africans, 4 of them. And I kind of talked about this in another subject before, but one of them, Malik Ambar, was the most famous and most powerful of the 4. And so India was living. And when they were under the Sharia Islamiyah, under the Muslims, they were the most prosperous and the most wealthy of states that the history has known. And so we see again, and we look at Andalus, modern day Spain. The Muslims had it for 700 years. In the 700 years, the cities like Cordoba and some other cities were some of the most richest in the world because they practiced the Sharia, and they lived by the Sunnah of our Prophet, alayhi salatu salam. Alhamdulillah wa rabbil alameen. So, in a nutshell, my brothers and sisters, you see where I'm getting at. When the Muslims lived and prospered under the Sharia, the Tubab governments from every era was in there trying to dismantle it. But at this time, the Tubab, especially at the early stages, they were in their dark ages. They could not, but they were smart. They began to send their emissaries and some of their brightest to study. As I told you last week and some of the other weeks about, they send them to Fez, Morocco, which is the oldest university in the world, Qarawiyyin. It's massive and it's a beautiful masjid. The education there is off the charts. And they sent them there, and also in Mali and Timbuktu, as I told you, and they studied there. And they studied Arabic because at that time, the lingua franca was Arabic. If you wanted higher education, it was not English. You had to learn Arabic. If you wanted to learn about the sciences, you learned it in Arabic, and you went under a professor who spoke Arabic, and he was Muslim. This is how it was for many, many years, many, many centuries. And then when the Europeans began to rise, the Muslim states begin to fall, and they begin to fall away from the Sharia. And we know the story, what has happened. The Europeans have been in control ever since that time. So roughly about 500, maybe even near 600 years, they begin to control. So I wanted to talk about this because I'm a Muslim, and I'm not going to make apologies to anybody, to a non-Muslim or to a hypocrite or to a weak Muslim or to any atheist, why I'm a Muslim and why I love the Sharia Islamiyah, why I follow as best to my ability the Sharia Islamiyah, why I love the Sunnah of our Prophet. I will not apologize to anybody for that. I will not. And matter of fact, I'm happy. I pray every day that Subhanahu wa Ta'ala gave me this opportunity, because I found something I could never find in all my years. And here I'm in my 60s, late 60s now. And I found something now for almost close to 16 years, I think now, 16 years I've been Muslim, alhamdulillah. And so, as I said, I am a stickler in that. Now, some have said this is terrorism. Some say that this is extremism. Some say this is radicalism, because I openly accept Islam and try to follow as it has been taught by Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to our Prophet, and our Prophet to his companions and to the favorite generations, and plus from all of our scholars of Islam from every era. And so, again, I will not apologize for that. I am proud of that. And I'm proud also because my ancestors who roamed West Africa, they were strong Muslims. I've talked about some of them. I've given them names in many programs. And I follow their footsteps the best I can, because I look like them, because I am them, because I carry their blood in my veins. So therefore, I will not apologize to say that I'm an African Muslim and I'm supposed to put my head down between my legs as though I'm shameful. No, I will not refuse. So with that said, the topic at hand, Sharia, what is the benefits? What is the advantages? As I mentioned, we have shown that in the past, when the Muslims have accepted and operated under Sharia, they led the world in sciences, in agriculture, in mathematics, in making the map. The Muslims made the first map. Surgery, eye surgery, heart surgery, education. We were leading the world, period. And you could find this not in China, not in the Americas. It didn't exist as we know it as that time, but it existed, but not as it is today. It was in Africa. So that's another kudo for us. So you brothers and sisters who are African on the continent, or even in sitting in America, you are African. You have ancestors who prospered, who taught this, who followed this, who gave these examples to us to follow. You should be proud of that, and you should study them. You should revere them. You should make prayers for them. You should ask subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them for their sins. And you ask subhanahu wa ta'ala to uplift you so you can find your ancestors and follow them and follow their way, because their way was of the Salaf. That Salaf leading to what? To our Prophet, alayhi salatu salam, and to Kitabillah and the Sunnah Rasuli. So this is important, my brothers and sisters. You Africans who are sitting here watching and listening to this, you should never hold your head down. You should be proud. I will not, I love the African, regardless of his religion. Don't get me wrong. He's still my brother. But again, I want to make it clear. I want to make it clear to everyone here to understand me, because this is our religion, Islam. There's a sisters, as I said before, in Deen. There's the sisters in humanity. There's brothers in humanity, and there's brothers in the Deen. The brothers and the sisters in the Deen have precedence in our religion, because subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that. Our Prophet alayhi salatu has told us that. We treat our brothers and sisters in humanity with kindness, those who do not fight us. This is the Sharia. See, this is not barbaric, but you hear CNN and NBC, and you hear think tanks say this is barbaric. Everything about the Sharia is barbaric, but it's not. It's practical. So now let's look at this here. What proofs do we have? You say, Yahya, I heard what you're saying here. I want to know what's happening now. How can you prove to me I'm a non-Muslim, or I'm a Muslim too? I want to understand what you're saying here. Well, the first proof, as you've seen, I gave many verses there in the beginning, there in the chat. And one of my most favorite ones here discusses what subhanahu wa ta'ala says. And the reason why, and I will cover this, because we even have a fight even among the Muslims, the scholars, believe it or not, because we have some of the scholars, and on both sides, they'll say that if you do not judge by what subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, you are a disbeliever, a kafir in Arabic. Okay. The other side says, well, wait a minute here. No, I think it's sinful. He's still Muslim. We've had this debate, and they've had this debate for every century, and we still have this debate today. So which one is he? If he's a governor, meaning he governs a Islamic state, and he rules by some other rule or law, is he a kafir? Is he this sinful? And they argue over this, and they still argue over this. I'm talking about some of the most famous of Sheikh Islams that we've had, some of the most brilliant. But I must be honest here. The consensus, the overall consensus is that majority of the scholars say that if you do not rule, and then that means even you and me, Muslims, even though we're not rulers, but if we don't judge each other and our brothers as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, then we are disbelievers. Now, you say, oh, yeah, that's a very strong statement. We know there's conditions to this, my brothers and sisters. We know we live in modern times. This is only as we speak the way it should be. But we know who's controlling the narrative today. It's difficult for you in LA to run under the Sharia because there's no Sharia there. I understand that. I know some Muslims who are involved in government. They cannot operate under the Sharia. Yes, I understand that as well. And that's another topic. No Muslim should be in a Kafir government. I don't care where he's at. No Muslim should be in a Tubab government because it's democratia. Has nothing to do with oneness of subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anybody who says that democracy promotes the oneness of God, I'm going to fall out of my seat. And if you can prove it to me that subhanahu wa ta'ala said that in his book, if you can prove to me that subhanahu wa ta'ala said that even in the Torah, please show me. Even in the Jewish law, there's no such thing as democratia, or in Arabic, or democracy. There's nothing like that in there. And they're not supposed to rule by it. Even in the Torah, even the Christian, yes, you Christians, you're not supposed to be ruling by that. Because why? Your prophet is Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. What did he say in the New Testament, which I hate the New Testament because it's flawed, but I have to use it. In Matthew, what did Isa alayhi salatu wasalam said? He said, I didn't come here to destroy what was the prophets before me with their law. I came to what? To enforce it. Now, how is it that today the Christians say, I can eat pork now, or I can do this, I can do that. When Isa, the prophet you said you follow, said he's here to enforce the laws of the prophets. Moses, alayhi salatu wasalam, John the Baptist, alayhi salatu wasalam, Abraham, alayhi salatu wasalam, all of those prophets live by the Sharia Islamiyah. Sharia Islamiyah, the subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them laws. It's just that when the New Testament came in, then who changed that? We know the Tubab, right? So this is what the Christians follow today. Now they have added with us, the Muslims as well, to get away from the Sharia, to what? To follow democracy. And we've had many Muslims follow this, and look at the Muslim states today. Look at most of the states today. They're in disarray. So subhanahu wa ta'ala has removed his hand from us. We suffer greatly because we still rule under democracy, and it's wrong. It's more than wrong. So I disagree humbly and respectfully to some of our scholars who try to give impetus to say, well, look, they can't do this and that, and we can't call them that. I'm not going to call them disbelievers. I'm not going to call them that, because that's for the scholars and the judges to do this. I'm only going by what the Sheikh Islams of every era have said, and I'll give you what some of them said, and it's pointed. And subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Now let's look at this. Surah, again, 42, verse 21. Interesting what subhanahu wa ta'ala says about this. It goes to the heart of the matter, what I was explaining, that the Muslims who proclaim that they can use democracy, or they can use communist ways and means, or they can use some made up cosmic thing from the sky or something and use this as governance against the Muslim. And he says he's justified in doing it. Let's wait a minute to see what subhanahu wa ta'ala says about that. Let's look at Surah 42, verse 21. He says, what have they partners in Godhead who have established for them some religion without the permission of Allah? Subhanallah. Without the permission of subhanahu wa ta'ala. Democracy is something that was not given authority to by subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was not given authority even in the Torah. That's right. Jewish law is not there either. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, he says, without his permission. So who did this and why without his permission? Then he says, had it not been for the decree of judgment, the matter would have been decided between them at once. But verily, the wrongdoers will have a grievous penalty. Now, let's look at this. We say, okay, I don't need to run by the Sharia. I can run by what the Americans run. What permission does that Muslim have to use another governance? What permission? Where is he getting that permission from? He's getting it from the Tubab? He's not getting it from subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he tells you here he didn't decree such a thing. He didn't decree it. So this is something, again, my brothers and sisters, I'm giving you this lesson so you can discern, because there's a lot of topic, there's a lot of discussion on this. And we have even Muslims who are confused on this. We've had scholars who are far greater than I am, far greater, who am I compared to them? And they differ on this issue. And they try to be practical, but some are hardline and say, no, I'm looking at this surah, I'm looking at this surah, I'm looking at this surah, I'm looking at this verse. And no, you must rule by subhanahu wa ta'ala's law. So with that backdrop, let's look at this again deeper. Subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us, which I always love to use, Surah 4, verse 141. What's so interesting about this particular verse is one of my catch-alls, because when the Muslim, the hypocrite, who tries to harm his brother, turning him into a kafir, or try to judge him by some other rule of law, who tried to hurt him, he tried to take his wealth from him, tried to use the Tuba police against him, and so forth and so on. And subhanahu wa ta'ala here has made it clear again, and I'm giving you the proofs. I'm giving you the proofs to say that there's no governance except that what subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed. He has made this mention even in the Torah. So even those who say that's only the Muslims, no, it's not. Even in the Torah, the Jewish law that the Christians say they profess to follow, which they don't. Why they don't follow that? Because they have adopted the Tubab's religion, which is a Eurocentric Christianity. I'm not going to get heavy into that, but I'm just giving you these facts. You research it and you see what I'm talking about. Now, in 141, in Surah 4, 141, subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about again. I'll go to the meat of it. And never will Allah, this is 141, Surah 4, near the end. And never will Allah grant to the unbelievers a way to triumph over the believers. Now, democracy is used as what? To trample over Africans, to enslave Africans, to kill Africans, to discriminate against Africans, to genocidally wipe them out economically. They try to wipe out their health, try to wipe out their way of life, try to enslave them to the point to where they can't even exist anymore. Subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you here, he will not allow that. He will not allow that. That's right. In this here, he says, never will Allah grant to unbelievers a way to triumph over the believers. When a Muslim uses democracy on his brother, he's just now put the way of the Tubab over on his brother, his African brother, or his Pakistani brother Muslim, or his Indian brother Muslim, or his Bosnian, any Muslim, and you put this on him, this is disbelief. All the scholars in this regard do say this is disbelief. If you turn your brother over to a non-believer so he can kill him, you had just fell out of religion. Not original kufr, but it's another term we call this. We call this murtad in Arabic, meaning you have went away from a religion when you had it, and then you went away from it. And we had famous Sheikh Islam talked about this issue. And so again, 141 gives you another proof that you do not use no other law but Allah's in your governance, in your relationship between you and your wife, in your relationship between me and Isaac, or my relationship with Sister Abina, or my relationship with Sister Amina. I must use the Sharia. I must use this to the best of my ability in my governance, in my attitude, in my behavior with non-Muslims and Muslims alike. Now, I've heard somebody on one of the YouTube made mention before about a comment, he because since he's more modern and so forth, he tried to cast, I guess when he used the word shade and stuff, but we used to call it in the hood talk, SHIT, against me. I use that like that, but that nowadays to say cast shade by saying that the person is ultra conservative. There's no ultra conservatism in Islam. I follow what Subhanahu wa ta'ala says here. He tells you don't do it, I don't do it. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I give you this, I take it. Now, what's the extreme in this? Are you calling Subhanahu wa ta'ala extremists? Are you calling, I'm talking to my brother who said this about me. Is our prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, and his sunnah and his sharia, is he a terrorist? No. So I say to you, and I say this in Arabic, I've always said, innani aqulu ma yaqul. I say what it says. And I stand by that defiantly. I stand by what the Quran says. I stand by our prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, and the favorite generations and our Sheikh Islams and what they rule. I stand by that. Innani aqulu ma yaqul. I say what they say. Now, let's go into this a little bit more. What are the names of Sharia Islamiyah? There are other names that you can grasp and you can study. Yes, it is. There's the Sharia Islamiyah Tawheed Hakamiyah. Think about this: Tawheed, oneness and governance. This is what this means in Arabic. It means that you're using the oneness of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and his governance to rule over the land. Tawheed Hakamiyah. Look it up. If you want this in Arabic, just ask me. I can send it to you. It's easy. And the other thing that is transverse to this, is adverse to this, and this is what democracy comes in. We have what is called, and this is in fiqh, shirk and kufr hakamiyah, assigning partners and disbelief in governance. This is democracy, because democracy does not promote oneness of God. Anybody who tells me that in America, that two bobs who run in the government are going by the oneness of God, I don't know what you've been smoking. Because I'm going to tell you right now, there's nothing religious. There's nothing about Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in this democracy. I see on TV, every time I turn on CNN, I see pencil neck, two-bob rednecks from the South and so forth and so on, who are taking the rights of African Americans to vote now. And you're going to say this is oneness of God? I don't even hear them even mention Subhanahu wa Ta'ala's name at all. And they say, quote unquote, I'm Christian. I don't even hear them talk about, I follow the Old Testament and the laws. I never hear them say that. I hear them promoting their own laws that they promoted against the device of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, against the Torah. So that's why I say, my brothers and sisters, you don't even have to use the Sharia, because they'll get mad with you because they'll call you terrorists. You use the Torah against them, because a Christian must follow the Torah in order for him to get to where? To heaven. He cannot follow just the New Testament. Because why? Isa, alayhi salatu salam, Jesus said, I come, what? Not to tear down the laws of the prophets, but to enforce them. He said this in Matthew. So if you follow Jesus, alayhi salatu salam, you have to follow the Torah. You don't follow that, there's something wrong with your Christianity. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. And same with the brothers, the Muslim brothers. If you're following democracy, and you're not following Tawheed Hakamiyah, oneness of God, governance, what are you? What are you? Huh? I mean, what are you? Or you have one foot here and one foot, what are you? Now, I'm gonna get into another part here to bolster my case. One of the most famous and prominent Sheikh Islams that we've had. We call him Sheikh Islam, is Taymiyyah. Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah, he wrote a fatawi, a book, a gathering of rulings. You're talking about thousands and thousands of pages. He has about approximately, I believe it's 38 books we call Bab inside his kitab. In Bab 35, on page 373, he is talking about the issue we're talking about right now. He's talking about the Muslims, because in his time, they were dealing with the Mongols. You remember them? Remember the Mongols? Mongolia, remember the Mongols? Okay. they called Tartars, remember them? They were running havoc through the Middle East, almost wiped out Islam. Some of the Muslims were governing other than that. He said here in his fatwa, his ruling against them, he says that I'm going to translate this in English. He says, if you follow the hakam of the rule of Allah and the rule of our Prophet, then you judge the hakam, okay, or any Muslim to other than the ruling, the command of Allah. Now I'm going to use Arabic and hear what he says here. He says, Kana murtaddin kafiran. He was a apostate and a disbeliever. This is from Sheikh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. Very strong words. Very, very strong words. He says that you, me, any Muslim, the governors who govern, and they go away from this. He says, kana, meaning was, were, are, in Arabic. Murtaddin kafiran. That's grammar Arabic. Murtaddin, meaning you're apostated and you disbelieve. That's what he said. Now, Sheikh Qurtubi, one of my other favorite Sheikh Islams, rahimahullah, he also made a comment about the same issue. And he said, basically, essentially, a little less stronger, but he said that the Muslim who went away from this, he's went away from Tawheed. Interesting, huh? From the oneness of God, by him ruling by something other than. This is what he said in the tafsir on Surah, remember 42, verse 21. That's the tafsir, part of the tafsir of that. He says here that the person who has went away from this, who does not have the permission from subhanahu wa ta'ala to govern by something else, he's left Tawheed. He's left Tawheed. This is strong. You left it, the oneness, because you adopted democracy. You've left Tawheed. This is not Yahya talking. We're talking about the Sheikh Islams from the past. I got their proofs here, what they in Arabic. I can give you what they say. I just give you the surah. You can look up these, they haven't translated in English. I think some of this, and you go to certain sites, they translate this in English if you want it. But I have here the tafsir for this one from Surah 42, verse 21. And again, Sheikh Qurtubi, who's given the tafsir on this, rahimahullah. And he talks about you leave the governance of Allah and our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. You left Tawheed. Remember I was talking about Kufr and Shirk Hakimiyya? That's what he's talking about. That's what he's talking about. Kufr, Shirk Hakimiyya, that you're using other than the governance of Allah. So now we're at a point. You say, okay, Yahya, I've listened to what you said. You started giving me some of the proofs, and I'm still not convinced that a non-Muslim or Muslims listening to this. He said, I'm still not convinced. I think democracy is the best way to go because what I understand of the Sharia is so barbaric. I'm going to tell you something. I don't know anything in history of the Sharia Islamiyya where they got black men, took them on ships, which we do know so-called Muslims did enslave other Muslims, but they didn't do the stuff like this, where they got people and put them on our ancestors and put them up trees and cut off their private parts and then burned them under democracy. There's nothing in the Sharia, in any of the ages that did such a thing. So when we talk about democracy and the African Americans and the Africans in America who boast their chest and hit their hands on their chest to beef up this two-bob governance, you forgot about your ancestors who hung from the trees and those that they threw out in the ocean under democracy. Those who they came and colonized in Africa, how many millions they killed, under democracy, under white supremacy. There's the correlation between white supremacy and democracy. Anyone says it's not, is living in a dream world. So this is tough talk, our brothers and sisters, because I'm giving you exactly what's happening. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to get on the TV like some of these other Muslims do, and they talk. You leave the program, as I said before. You come in confused, you leave confused, and then they want to be apologetic about Islamic law. They want to be apologetic about what Muslims follow because they don't know. They can't explain it. That's why I told you these kind of brothers don't get no knowledge from them. Don't get it from them. They'll lead you astray and they lead you to the fire. And so I'm giving you something here where you can check out. As I always told you, you get the proofs from the people, from me. You say, yeah, I disagree with you here and there. You have that right as a Muslim to disagree. And I must provide you, my dear brother and sister, with the proof. That's our law. This is our sunnah. So I'm giving you these proofs so you can research that. Now, let's look at the tafsir about the Sharia Islamiyah, Islamic law. What does it give you, the advantages? Here, it's part of the worship. When you have the Sharia Islamiyah, it's part of your worship. It's right. It's part of that. It's part of that. And it also augments your prayers. It also augments your behavior. This is all under the Sharia Islamiyah. And so it also gives protection of each one of these institutions. The Sharia protects the prayer. The prayer protects the rights and stuff of the woman and the man in Islam. All of this comes together under the Sharia and they protect one another. And also, now let's look at the exact opposite of that. And I'm giving you the proof again. Democracy does not protect your prayers. It doesn't even encourage that. It doesn't even protect the rights of its citizens, except those who are white. Right? Tubab. It only protects, yes, they give cursory amount and some brothers win a couple of cases, but usually speaking, we're on the other side of the spectrum. And let's look at the comparisons again on democracy versus Sharia Islamiyah. In democracy, there's built-in discrimination, isn't it? There's built-in debauchery, isn't it? As I said before, the American man, and I know I was a non-Muslim, the American man can have what? 1,000 mistresses, but he cannot have 2 wives. He can even take so many mistresses and have sexual relations. There's no law stopping him. Okay, but in Islam, we don't have that. It's against the law to do this. But democracy say we can do it. In democracy, they say there's no discrimination. Funny, we've been discriminated against for 400 years. Under democracy, under their rules of law, they keep evolving the laws to keep them in power. The Sharia, you can't do that because there's a set of laws designated by Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, designated by our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. Anyone who changes the fatwas of our Prophet, the Islamic rules, nobody has that authority. No Sheikh Islam will ever tell you that he will abrogate anything from the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, because he cannot. He cannot abrogate anything from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. You say, yeah, that's not true. Let me give you the proof of this. In Surah 5, verse 3, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, I have perfected this religion today. That means what comes after it, you can't do nothing else with that. So that's proof against those who said, no, you can change it here and there. You cannot, because Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has said, this is it. It's over. I perfected it for you. Now you go to follow that. That's the case. So democracy, again, in a nutshell, is filled with discrimination. Now, when the person says, well, I don't know, there may be some discrimination here and there, but let's take it a little further. The examples, again, as I said, they have strong, again, discrimination against the Muslims, but they don't have discrimination against those who worship a toilet, or those who worship the cow, or those who worship an ant, or some who worship the stars. They don't go after them. They only go after Muslims, and they discriminate. And they make laws that does discriminate against African Americans in particular, and Hispanics as well. So, and what's lastly built-in discrimination, built-in democracy, is tyranny and injustice. Democracy is tyranny and injustice for all those who are brown and black, meaning melanated people. If you are Tubob, yes, you love that because it keeps you in power in Europe. It protects you so you can do things under that democracy, but we don't have that same protection. We don't. They have that protection. So that particular governance did not come from Subhanahu wa ta'ala. I beg to differ from anyone who tells me that democracy is from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we get on them. And the proof, again, my brothers and sisters, that you use against our Christian brothers who say this is you ask them, why don't they follow the Torah? And then when they say, oh, no, we have the New Testament, you scratch your head and say, whoa, wait a minute. I just looked in chapter of Matthew, and in there, Isa, alayhi salam, said, I didn't come here to change the law. I didn't come to abrogate it. He said, I come here to enforce this. So wait a minute. So if Isa said he's here to enforce the Torah, so then what are you following, my dear Christian brothers and sisters? When you follow the New Testament, you're following the Tubob. You're not following any of the prophets. You can't, because Jesus said you follow me, right? If you are a Christian, you follow Jesus, alayhi salatu wasalam. What is his Sharia, his law? It's the Torah. It's the Torah, right? So, you see what I'm trying to get at, my brothers and sisters. All of us was given a prophet to follow. The Christians say, I follow Jesus. Okay, fine. Okay, we understand that. We hear that. You say you follow that, but you don't follow his way. And so if you say that you follow Jesus, then you have to follow his way. You can't pick and choose. It doesn't run like that. This is what leads to the confusion. And with the Muslims, the same thing. The Muslims say, I'm Muslim. They say, I believe in Allah. I believe in the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's what they said. But yet and still, they don't want to govern by the Sharia or by the Sunnah. And there's the confusion. So what are you following? This is the dilemma we have, my brothers and sisters, today in Muslim world. That confusion has always been in the Christian world, but we are experiencing it on grand scale today in the Muslim world. And now let's look at this. We have something that was just brought in our face here just days ago, the Palestinian issue. That in itself should tell you there's something wrong. When you look at the Jewish government, the Israeli government, they don't follow the Torah, because if they did, they would not massacre the Palestinians, our brothers. They would not massacre them. And here's what's even worse than that. Our Jewish brothers, rightfully so, talk about the Holocaust, and they should, because it was a travesty. It was something worse than any. It's beyond, it's devilish what happened to them. Okay, and that genocide. But yet, instead, when they got this Israeli state, what are they doing to the Palestinians? Aren't they mimicking the Germans, exterminating? Huh? They're doing the same thing that they vowed they would not do. They didn't want somebody to exterminate them, but yet they exterminating the Arabs in this area. So how can that be? So that tells me that the government, now we have Jews protesting around the world too right now against that government because they are not following the Torah. And if you look at the real Orthodox Jews, they are against the government. And that's why they're discriminated against, even in Israel. They're discriminated against. Anyone who knows the Orthodox Jews, they are strong in the Torah. They are against this government because they know the government doesn't follow the Torah. It follows its own ways and means. So we're talking about a lot of issues here about God's law, subhanahu wa ta'ala's law. And I'm giving you all of this. Torah, I'm giving you the Sharia. I'm giving you the Christians. I'm giving you all this as ammunition, my brothers and sisters. When you go talking, when you walk in LA and our Christian brothers go talk to you about why they love democracy and they tried to tell you, well, you proved to me I need to follow something else. You pull out Matthew in the New Testament and say, well, you tell me, you explain this to me. What did the prophet Jesus say here? Alayhi salatu wasalam. He's going to look at you and he's going to try to figure it out. He's going to say, whoa, wait, I got to follow the Torah now, because he didn't even know this verse, right? He didn't know the verse. So that's a very interesting thing that you use to get your brother who is a Christian as well. And then the brothers who are Muslims who say that I can use democracy, you give them some of the things I gave you here, especially Surah 4, verse 141. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says he will not let the disbelievers put their ways on the Muslim. He will not. So that's in a nutshell. That gives you the ammunition to fight and to argue with our brothers and to bring our brothers, Christian and Muslim, together. Now, let me say this as I speak. I want people, they come back to review this tape, especially the brothers who are on tube, who are against me, and they say they're Muslim, and they call it this radicalism, terrorism, they call this all kind of things. And then when I see what they're doing, it's outside of the Sharia. They won't even defend Islam at all. And so I say to them that I'm giving the proofs here from the Quran. I have this here. I give the tafsir. What are you giving for proofs to say that you can operate outside of that? You give me your proofs, my brothers. I know some of them are watching this who are on YouTube, who are talking, around about Islam, don't want to back it up. You give me your proofs, my dear brothers, in the Quran and the Sunnah that says that you can do what you can do, what you're doing there when you talk that. And you explain to me that when a Muslim follows the law of Allah and that of Prophet is terrorism. You show me this. You show me this, my brothers and sisters. You show me this who says these type of things. Because it's not the case at all. I'm following strictly here. I got to hear the book. I got the Quran here. And we have the Sunnah as well. Now, I'm not going to cover the tafsir much on 21. I just gave you some of that. Now let's look at Surah 60 and Surah 4 and 60. Again, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is made in 60 and 65. This again, Surah 4, and the verse is 60. And this is one of my favorite ones too. If we look at this, let's go into the middle of this. I'm going to read it off to you. This is what our enemies and those who follow the devil, what they try to do to us. And even to the Christians too, to get the Christians away from the Sharia of Jesus. Subhanahu wa ta'ala says here, the real wish is to resort together for judgment in their disputes to the evil one. Who's the evil one? The devil. This is what Subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Now, the devil worshipers, the ones who follow the devil, they go after Christians and Muslims alike. They try to get the Christians to follow what in their heart, follow their own ways and means, not to follow the Sharia of Isa, Jesus alayhi salam. This fits them as well, because here, to the evil one. That's right. When you use democracy, you resorting to what? The devil's way and means. All we have to look, my brothers and sisters, you look at those people that's on CNN or any of these and all these senators and stuff like that, all the craziness, the evil wickedness that they're spouting out on TV, backing even insurrection to overthrow the government. And now they're after African Americans again with the vote, going to try to take it from you. And even that's not even good enough. So they still, as we speak, there's a two-bob policeman killing an African American. Now, let's look at that, my brothers and sisters. How evil. They have resorted, as Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says here, the wish, these racists, their wish is to resort together for judgment in their disputes to the evil one. They have succumbed to the devil. This is why they kill. This is why they legislate the way they do. This is why they claim that there's something we need to do, so we should be killed and we should overthrow a government. Subhanahu wa Ta'ala tells you here. And then he says, they were ordered to reject him, meaning you Christians, you Jews, you Muslims, you are ordered by your books to reject the evil one. That means the devil and his way. That's why I said many times, you heard me say, we have brothers. Okay, yes, we have Muslims, but the Christians and Jews are close to us as far as religion, not the Hindus, not Shintoism, not Taoism, but Christianity and Judaism is very close to Islam. Okay, so this fits you as well. But here he finishes, he says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Satan's wish is to lead them astray far away from the right. Isn't that true, my brothers and sisters who are Christians, Jews, Muslims? What does the devil do? He tries to lead you away. So I'm giving you the facts. Now, my distractors will get on YouTube and say, this is extremism on Yahya's part. This is terrorism. This is craziness coming from Yahya. I just gave you the proof from subhanahu wa ta'ala, what he just said. I'm not saying this. I say what it says, but I'm not saying this. Subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this. Yes, yes, I say what it says, but I'm only reading. I'm just a messenger here. I'm just providing you the information. So the Christians, Jews, and Muslims, you listen to that. You go back to this again. Surah 4, verse 60. Subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it clear. How clear can you get even in English? Subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you. Now let's look at 65. Those men, Allah knows what is in their hearts to keep clear of them, but admonish them and speak to them a word to reach their very souls. Now, subhanahu wa ta'ala says we stay clear of these people, but we try to reach them in such a way that we try to bring them back. We try to bring them if we can, but you stay clear of them. If you can't bring them, you stay clear because they will try to corrupt your religion. That goes for the Christians, that goes for the Jews and the Muslims. So these who try to take you away, like those pencil necks we see on CNN, all these senators and stuff, you don't know what their religion is. They say they're Christian. Stay clear of them. Stay clear of them because they'll send you to the fire because they don't follow anything but the devil. And that's the serious. And you know, there's even some, even as my father used to tell me many times, I heard him say this since I was a boy till I was a man. He said, when you see a gathering of Tubab, and when one Tubab breaks away from that group, and he comes to you to tell you that Bill, Larry, John, this man, Albert, they're racist. My father said, you better listen to that. My dad used to tell me that even when I was a little boy, even the manhood, that was one of his favorite little things he used to always tell me about racism. When he did talk to me about it, he said, you see a group of Tubab, and then suddenly one breaks away and he begins to talk against them. He said, you better listen, because he started naming people who are racist. And we found this to be true. It's true what my dad said. So anyway, my brother and sister, I gave you that, and I'm going to have another part of this. We're going to talk about this again in another segment. And lastly, I'm going to conclude about something. And I'm going to bring this up. There's going to be disagreement with me on this, and I'll give something where you can study and have this. There's many other proofs. I'll give this, inshallah, in another topic. In the same topic in another lesson. I'll give you some more because there's many verses in the Quran that supports the Sharia and will we use it. But I'm going to get into something here at the last, then we can conclude. Assalamu alaikum, my dear sister Amina. Glad you came. I'm going to tell you something. The African in America and the Muslims who's living elsewhere. I'm going to say this to you. Some would disagree with me. Stay out of revolutions. I want you guys to understand this. Stay out of revolutions. If you're Muslim, now the Christians and the Jews, I'm not talking to them, but the Muslims, I'm saying this to you because we have no proofs from the Quran and the Sunnah that we can do it. When you see people out on the street, even if they're injustice, stay away from it because there's no proof that you can do it. There's a lot of Sheikh Islams in the past who give fatwas against it. And let me give you an analogy to this. I know some will say, well, yeah. How are we supposed to fight evil? You fight it in the way the Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has allowed you to fight it, through prayer, through gatherings, through using, in modern times, we have many avenues now. We have all kind of rights groups. We have media. We have all kind of things. We can have news conferences left and right to express what is happening to us. And we do have Muslims doing that. But to hit the streets in today's climate, I'm going to show you how dangerous it is. I'm not going to talk about the past. I'm going to give you what is dangerous now. Usually a peaceful demonstration leads to violence. Even though the Muslims and the non-Muslims walk down the street, they're nonviolent. But who trains the security forces in most of the world's governments today? The same Tubab who's enslaved you. They're usually trained the security forces. And so they're not going to have no love for you at all when it's time to break your head. And what happens is we have the clash, and nothing comes about it except we have people who die. This is why this is another subject I'm going to cover, inshallah, next week, talking about these demonstrations and the good of it, and when you can do it, if you can do it, and what becomes of it. And let me give you the proof on why it's dangerous. We have it only in our religion. Anybody who studied the religion, I will say this. Do you remember the third, the caliph, Uthman? Okay, Uthman, radiallahu anhu. He was the third one. There was a vicious rumor that was started against him, a vicious rumor. And it was a Jewish convert to Islam who did it just only to get in with the Muslims. He was not really a Muslim, but he got into that. He got into Islam only to make problem. And the problem he did caused the death of Uthman, our third caliph. That's right. He authored a letter, and he mimicked the signature of our Khalifa. And this letter spread around through the Muslims, and it was basically shirk and kufr in it. He said, how can he be Khalifa? And he was a companion to our prophet, and he write this. When they took it to Uthman, radiallahu anhu, he said, I didn't write this. And a mob gathered. They began to talk and talk. Finally, they had a big demonstration. The demonstration, the devil got in between them, between the Islamic State and between the demonstrators who claimed to be Muslims. The devil put such a fervor into them that when they went to go to get Uthman, they killed him. The third caliph, this demonstration led to violence. They went and got him, and I forgot how many stab wounds they said. They couldn't get to his body for a week because the demonstrators were so devilish in frenzy over this. And then they found out later that Uthman, radiallahu anhu, did not write the letter. You see, my brothers and sisters, how dangerous it is to go in a demonstration. You don't know who is spreading what, and you go by following the mob, and you go to kill somebody, or if something happened in your demonstration that leads to the killing of somebody, that's on your head too. Those Muslims who went into that demonstration because they said that if they would have took it to the Ashura Council and they would have debated and they talked about it, they didn't do that. They decided they were going to do something that no one did in Islam at that time. And the third Khalifa, he tried to talk to them. They refused to listen to him. They tried to bring him to the Ashura Council to talk to him. They refused. He said, you wrote this. He didn't write it. So they got people together, and the devil got into their hearts, and they killed the third Khalifa. They killed him. I mean, more than that. They wiped him out. And he went into his chamber and stabbed him, ungodly many times. The devil was in there and they were such a frenzy. They killed him. And they wouldn't even let the Muslims even to bury him, which we're supposed to bury our dead right away. They kept the body there for 1 week. And then when they found out that the letter was false, that this Jewish traitor who said he was Muslim, he did it. They had just killed a Khalifa. Can you believe that? Now you see, my brothers and sisters, this is evidence I'm giving to you to say, please be careful when you enter demonstrations as a Muslim. You be careful because you may be going there on a lie. And you're going to be held responsible for that when people die around you because of that. You don't want that on your books. When you go into the ground and you have to answer for your sins, you don't want subhanahu wa ta'ala and the angels to question you and say, you know, yeah, you went on this thing over here. What evidence did you have that made you do this? What was the evidence? And I didn't have the right evidence. And then I found out later that it was a lie and people were killed because of what I said to get people to go out in the streets. Be very careful, my brothers and sisters. Please be very careful, you Muslims. Stay out of demonstrations. It's not allowed. Now, there's arguments by some scholars today to say that, well, you know, look, we make ijtihad. We're making a ruling to say that you can do certain things. But our prominent sheikhs of just about all say no to this. Because why? It leads to violence. And lastly, on this, because of it leads to violence, you stay away from them. And my brothers and sisters, you find avenues. There's ways to do it. We have much media today we can use to voice your complaints, and there are injustice. You think I'm sitting here easily, without injustice? I've had much injustice to me. I have it continuously, but I don't take to the streets and I don't go to denounce the ruler, because this is a grave sin. You have to be very careful when you do this. And I'll talk about this in a class. I can't walk down the street and start talking against the king and the government per se, even though they may be doing something, because we have rulings that the Prophet ﷺ has said. And we'll cover this, inshallah, to give you now you can understand. Because yeah, I don't know what you're talking about now. You're discriminating. Why don't you take the streets to argue? I just gave you proof, so you have to be very careful of that, because it leads to something, and you can't make changes through running down the street, getting people to come to follow you. Then there's 100, then there's 500, there's 700, there's 1,000, based upon what happened to me. And then something happens as what happened to me mutates. By the time the 1,000th person heard it, he heard that I was stabbed. And then they go to attack based upon something they heard by rumor. Then they go to kill, and they go kill policemen, or they go kill somebody in the government, or they go kill another person. Then after the smoke is cleared, they found out that Yahya, who started this, wasn't stabbed. He only said he was discriminated against, or that he didn't get something from the government. That's all he said. But by the time the person 1 week later heard about it, I was stabbed or I was killed, and he took to the streets to fight against what has happened to me. You see, my brothers and sisters, how dangerous it is. You got to be very, very careful, because this would usually happens when you have demonstrations like this. It starts off one way and then it ends up in another way, and that's very dangerous. Our sister, we should make demonstrations to support our brothers, Palestine and India. The demonstrations, of course, again, this is a big debate. How do we do it? How do we successfully do this? How do we, because what's happening in Kashmir, we know, if you follow Kashmir, even what's happening in Myanmar, what's happening to our brothers there, and our Uyghurs in China, what's happening to them. We have so much injustice in the Muslim world and what's happening to Muslims. We can be demonstrating every type of way. We have to find a medium. But it was an interesting fatwa issued. I said this last week. Very interesting fatwa issued some years back. It's almost about 10, 12 years ago. And prominent Sheikh Islam there in Saudi Arabia issued. He was talking about, and also a famous scholar talking about, that the Muslims can't do anything in jihad against the Jewish state until all of the Muslim rulers get together, because without their support, we can do nothing. It's true. How many years we've been fighting over this Palestinian issue, and the Muslim rulers talk, but they don't get together, because they don't get together to go to help. So therefore, since we don't have their support, yes, we can demonstrate. If you demonstrate, what happens? You see what has happened. When we go do certain things, we still have the same problem. We have people die for it. And so we have to be very careful on how we do it. And we have to look to subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance. We have to look at the Sheikhs Islams. What have they said from every ear about that? We got to be very careful. I'm giving you this evidence because my brothers and sisters, Africans, Muslims and even non-Muslims, you can take this advice. Be very careful. Even in LA, if you want to go to the streets to demonstrate, you better make sure that what you are doing, that you have the proof behind it. Don't go by what Sally told you or what Jimmy told you, because it could be something that they heard or rumor and then find out later it was not the case. How many times we've heard that? And we've heard that someone was shot, and then we take the streets. Come to find out the guy wasn't shot. He was arrested violently, but he was taken to jail, but he wasn't shot and killed and beaten. And then we hit the streets because of it. And people died because of that rumor. And then you go home and you say, you know what? I wouldn't have took the streets if I would have learned the truth that Jimmy, who was taken, he was just arrested. He wasn't beaten and he wasn't killed. My brother and sister, it's dangerous. It is very dangerous. Be very careful. Lastly on this, my brothers and sisters, let me talk about the Palestinian issue real fast, because I know our brother Saeed, he had a program last night talking about the Palestinian issue and with the Israelis. And I want to say this. I've covered this a little bit last week, but I want to say something to you. I want to give you some of the genesis behind something that you can go back to do your proof and you hear what your brother's saying here. Our brothers in Palestine have to be supported. I don't care if you're African or not. And I told you last week, if you want to use the racial aspect of it, I told you, don't go by their light skin, their DNA. Just about all of them have African blood. There are also a large segment population, as I explained to you, from time immemorial. There's been black, there's still black there. Jericho, I mean, all this region, there's been black folk there for thousands of years. There's nothing new. They've been there. So we should support the Palestinians. But let's talk about something here in our close. I know I'm a little long today. Please forgive me. We have to look at it from the Islamic standpoint. Yesterday, they talked in Saeed's program, which was a good talk. A variety of discussions. I caught some of it, and people gave a lot of good information. They talked about what they feel that, about this issue, and it was good. And a lot of people talked, and they gave a lot of emotion talking about this issue. I'm not going to give you emotion. I'm going to give you something from Islam. Let's go back to the hadiths of Prophet ﷺ, who was explaining something. You brothers, non-Muslims alike, the Jews are not going away. I don't care if you go demonstrate today or tomorrow. They're not going away. I'm going to tell you why they're not going away. They're going to be there for a long time, because our Prophet ﷺ said so. So I don't care if you hit the streets. The Jewish state that you see there now is not going away. Not today, not 50 years from now. And we don't know until the time this will begin to disappear during the time of, remember, I talked about the hadiths. You have the minor signs and you have the major signs. The Mahdi will come. He will be the ending of the minor signs of the hour. Okay. And the beginning of the major signs. And the Antichrist will come. The Jews will go to support the Antichrist. This is when they will actually get their butts kicked, because they will be conquered. Because Isa ﷺ will come down, and he will deal with the Jews, and he'll also slay the Dajjal, the Antichrist. This is the Muslims. We'll end this problem of the Jewish state at this time. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Now let's look at something else. Then I will close. Now, we look at the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. He said there will be 12 caliphs until the Yom Kippur. 12. That's right, 12. We know 6 have appeared. Now, remember we were talking about governance? None of them governed under democracy or anything other than that. They govern under the Sharia. The future 6 will govern under the Sharia. This is why I say it's got to be disbelief when the Muslim does not use his law, because the favorite of the caliphs that will come, the 6 who will come in the future here, will all govern under the Sharia. Our prophet, in Majah, if you look at his bab, he talks about this, and some others talking about there's going to be 12. 6 have come to pass. Remember, we had the 4th favorite, the Rashidin. And then we had Hassan. And then we had our beautiful, who was, they said, the Mujadda. He began to reestablish the Sunnah again. He became the 6th caliph. Now we have 6 more to come. The Jews will still be present, my brother, my sisters. They will still be present. See, so I'm giving you this information for you to look at so you can do your research. We have 6 more caliphs to come. 6 more. We don't know when under the 6th when the Mahdi will come. Which one? Will he be the 8th one? Will he be the 9th one or 10th one? We don't know, because the Prophet ﷺ didn't give us that information. We don't even have the names of the others, but we have the name of the Mahdi, that his name is the same as our prophet. And so we know him, and he has the name of his father. We know this. We know this from the hadiths, but the other 5, we don't know who their names are. So they're going to be there. And this is an interesting point, again, for you Muslims to do your research, and non-Muslims too, if you're interested in this. So when you talk about the Palestinian issue, and we hear a lot of talk about this issue, you've got to bring something to the plate to bring teeth to it. I'm bringing teeth to it. I'm bringing it from an Islamic standpoint. I would not apologize for that. I'm not apologetic to nobody for that, because I believe in our prophet. Because I'm going to tell you something. You better look at the minor signs of the signs of the hour. Every single one is leading to the Mahdi right now has come to pass. Our prophet has told us step by step what's going to happen, and they have come to pass. I believe what our prophet has said. I'm going to follow what he says. And he's true what he said. He said there's 6 more to come. There's going to be a total of 12. This explains the Palestinian issue. Our brothers will not be able to defeat them in this time. They're not ready yet. And look at it, my brothers and sisters. The Palestinian Authority are not even together themselves. The Muslim world is not even together. Look how silent they were in this last barrage that happened. The only one who was vocal was who? Turkey, Erdogan. Our brother from Turkey, the president. He was the only one talking, and he was talking strong. He was telling, hey, we need to get a force to come in there and kick some butts and protect our brothers. No Muslim ruler came to aid them. You see how difficult it is? This is why I say, you're going to demonstrate, what are you going to accomplish? Here's Erdogan. He's powerful. He's got an army that's very powerful. And we could get nobody to go. He said he wanted to go to enter there to protect our brothers. Nobody wanted to go there with him. You see how difficult this situation is with the Palestinians? No one talked about that last night. They talked about other emotional issues. Yes, it's good. We need to talk about that. How is related to the African Americans, because it is related, because we have the same man, the accursed, who's fighting in this. It's the same who's fighting us in the United States. It's true. But I'm bringing you from an Islamic standpoint, from something from the Sunnah and from our prophet who talked about this issue. The Jewish state is not going away. So you go to the streets and demonstrate all you want. You can do that. More power to you. If you want to do it, go ahead. It's not going to go away. You have so much ascension in the Muslim world, not one. Only one stood up to talk against it. That was Erdogan, President Erdogan. He said, let's go in there and protect our brothers. Nobody came to his aid. He said, I wanted even one to come to aid me when I come in there to protect our brothers. Not one. And speaking of that, and I will close. Let me give you the example of something was different. The Israelis are armed to the teeth. We're talking about the government. We're not talking about the Jewish brothers and sisters there and outside the government. We're not talking about them. We're talking about the government. Let's make a distinction here. They're armed to the teeth. But they're armed to do what? To kill the black and brown, right? Our Muslim states are armed to the teeth to kill who? Black and brown, to kill other Arabs and other Africans. That's right. They were given this, not to fight the Tubab, to fight, no, only to fight against other blacks and Arabs. That's right. You see the difficulty we have, our brothers and sisters, with this whole issue. And it's right when he issued this fatwa a long time ago. And even Sheikh Albani, he made a comment too. He said, we can't do nothing to cure the problem there in Palestine until the Muslim leaders get together as one and come in strength to go fight against this and to stop these agreements with the Jews, the Jewish state, the government, and then get together to fight against them when this will happen. It's not going to happen for a long time. The dissension is too great. So my brothers and sisters, I talk a little bit longer today, and I'm hoping you got something out of this. And our sister here, Amina, says something good. She said here, because now we have no way to help our brothers. And it's true. You know, we can demonstrate, but we have nothing else because we have no teeth and power behind us. Our Muslim states won't help us. We can go 1 million strong in the street. They will not help us. They will come to beat our heads in. If you go out to demonstrate, most likely they're going to get violent against you. So we can demonstrate. We can get on TV. We can do just what we're doing now. And we're still not going to change that because it's not time yet. Our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, broke it down for us. This problem that we see here now, it won't be solved until the time of the Dajjal when he come and when the Mahdi come. Then we will settle this issue once and for all. Remember, I cried here the other week talking about the Da'ifatun Mansur when they will come. These chosen warriors, these mujahideen, they will come in and kick butt. And they will come take Jerusalem, Quds. And I said, I want so much to be a part of that. I said that. I make bay'ah and make bay'ah to them and come in a marching army to go take Quds. How much I want that, but I will never see that in my lifetime. I know that. So I can only pray that subhanahu wa ta'ala look in my heart and say, I want it to be there. And I want my brothers and sisters, you guys to do the same thing. Ask to be part of that, to be in there to liberate Quds, Jerusalem, from the Jewish state. But it won't be most likely in our lifetime. And so I'm giving you these proofs and evidence, my brothers and sisters, and I'm hoping you do your research and you think about what your brother said today. And you look at this. And again, I'm not chiding anybody on their shows, anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm only augmenting because our brother Saeed, he had his program last night and a lot of brothers were talking and he weighed in, sisters are talking and everybody was weighing in on these issues. It's good. But you know what? Hey, I look at it from an Islamic standpoint because I have to look at the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and what he had to say. So when I hear the issue like this, I return back to the books. This is what the scholars do. The people of knowledge do. They turn to the books to look for the answer, or they pray to subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, I have emotion. You saw me last week cry about the Da'ifatun Mansura because I want to be so much among them. I want to be like them. I want to be one of the chosen ones that subhanahu wa ta'ala puts into this jihad, this mujahideen that will come to take Quds and take it away from the Jewish state and be part of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam when he come down here and he'll be part of that Da'ifatun Mansur when he kills the Dajjal, the Antichrist. I wish I could be there to be there, and I can hope I could be there to see that. And I'll be there to see the Dajjal taken and that the Jewish state is removed once and for all, and it will be at this time. And I can go pray behind the Mahdi. How beautiful when he sits at the Fajr prayer. I wish I could be sitting there in the rows praying behind him, knowing Isa, Jesus alayhi salatu is right by me because he'll be praying behind the Mahdi at this time at the conquering of Quds. And Jesus alayhi salatu wasalam will be there, my brothers and sisters. How much I would love to be there, sitting in the rows, getting ready to pray behind the Mahdi. This is what I hope for. This is what I wish for. This is what I cry for. And this is what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters. I have my passion for this. I just cannot use the emotion like this. I have to go to the books, see what our prophet has said. I have to see what subhanahu wa ta'ala said about this issue. So I weighed in on the Palestinian issue. You listen to my words again on this issue, and you do your research, and then this should help you in this. So my brothers and sisters, please forgive me. I was a little long today. Thank you, my dear sister Amina, for coming. My sister Abina, thank you, my dear sister from Compton. You know, we go way, way back. Thank you for showing up. My brother, always here, Isaac. Thank you, my dear brother, for showing up. And I'm hoping that those who listen to this in the future and those who will show up in the future, that they get something out of this and they learn. I will give a second part to this also here, inshallah, next week sometime, if Subhanahu gives me permission to do this. And so I'm going to leave you with that, and I will cover some more of this, and then we'll get deeper into it, and I'll give you some other aspects. And just be careful out there, my brothers and sisters out there in the United States. Please be careful out there on the streets. Please be careful, because there's a lot of killings out there. Any one of you could be killed at any time there in America. It's just that dangerous now. I just saw a brother, this thing was on one of the stations here where they killed this brother coming out of the masjid. One of our the imams in the east there, he just came back from Turkey and he was in tears. I just saw his program on YouTube. The brother came out of the masjid and he was shot down in a hail of bullets. He just come from praying, Fajr prayer. They just shot him down. You see how dangerous it is in the United States? He come out of the masjid. He was going home, and these, I guess, gangsters or some people come by and shot him dead. Brothers and sisters, please be careful out there in America. You could die at any moment, and those Muslims, you die Muslim. You keep your prayers up. Don't do anything to go against what Subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have 5 daily prayers. You keep up those daily prayers. Don't vacate that, because you don't know when something can happen to you. You keep your prayers. You keep your dhikr up. And my non-Muslim brothers and sisters, I hope you got something out of this today. You do your research when I talk about the Christian aspect of this on chapter of Matthew with Jesus, alayhi salatu wasalam. You can look at that, investigate that, and see how that measures up what you've been told and what you know about what you follow, because that is poignant with what Jesus said there, alayhi salatu wasalam, in Matthew. And it's very interesting. Who knows that verse? It's very, very, very interesting. But yes, my dear sister Bina said it's dangerous. It is dangerous out there. It's dangerous out there in the United States, my brothers and sisters. So please be careful. Okay, my brothers and sisters, thank you very much for showing up. I leave you with the words of Jinnah. Salamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.